Let's go back to school now for a comparison of demand economics and the mobile UA market for apps and games. Let's start with Economics 101, the demand curve and the supply curve. The demand curve is a graphical representation of the relationship between the price of a good or service and the quantity demanded for a given period of time. The supply curve is a graphical representation of the correlation between the cost of a good or service and the quantity supplied for a given period. When the curves intersect, this is known as economic equilibrium. Through using a technique called marginal analysis, it is accepted in economic theory that profit is maximized when production of a product takes place all the way until these curves intersect. In other words, where demand equals supply and where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Now, compare what we've just covered to the mobile advertising market. Our supply curve is essentially the acquisition cost of new customers. Let's call it the customer acquisition cost, or CAC curve. As mobile ads are based on an auction system, the more users you buy, the more expensive it gets. Now, back to the demand curve. This is essentially our LTV curve, which can be thought of as users' propensity to spend in your app or game. To start with, you target the highest paying potential users. Then gradually, as the targeting gets wider, the LTVs wane over time as the higher spending users are gradually exhausted and replaced with those with a lower propensity to spend. Now, let's look at where those curves intersect. This is our economic equilibrium, where our marginal cost of acquiring user equals the marginal revenue they bring in, LTV, or where my CAC equals my LTV. What's really important in mobile advertising is that you're on top of these curves on a daily basis, as they can be quite volatile. Acquisition costs can spike rapidly as you start to spend money and is totally dependent on live market circumstances, including seasonality, release cycles of similar games, apps, and so on. Similarly, LTVs can fall as you grow, although typically this happens at a slower pace than the increase in pricing of acquisition costs, as the behavior extends over a longer period of time. Given the volatility of the mobile ads market, you may wish to introduce a minimum hurdle return into your calculations to build in a margin of safety. So you may want to buy up only to a safe point where you are making X% minimum return, which gives you a margin of safety in case you overshoot on your LTV estimates. So there, hopefully that was a helpful trip down memory lane for anyone who studied economics, and for those who haven't, demonstrated some of the math and the theory behind the mobile ad space, which is just really a modern take on something that's been around for a very long time.